only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
The National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning.
Welcome to the Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast, where prepping doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. Coming to you from a well-defended off-grid compound high in the mountains. Coming to you from his Florida room in Richmond, Virginia. Neither off-grid nor well-defended, unless you count his chickens and cats. Here is your host, Keith.
Hey all, this is Keith and welcome back to the Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast, August 19th, 2025. Well, tonight I want to talk about bartering, and I want to go into a little more depth than I did a couple weeks ago when I specifically spoke about bartering with silver, 1 ounce silver rounds. So I want to go into a little more detail and a little more in depth about the type of bartering and the things you can barter with. So like any SHTF situation, it could be relatively minor, absolute catastrophe. So I'm going to pick just kind of a generic SHTF situation and keep it relatively simple because you can go off on so many tangents and what if and how about what happens if or what are you going to do when. So I'll keep it relatively basic if I can. So we're going to talk about a severe storm that a hurricane makes landfall. And by the way, Erin is slowly making her turn north and east out to sea. And boy, she's taking her sweet time. So a hurricane comes ashore, takes out a significant chunk of the East Coast, goes as far north as Virginia, Maryland. We get Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Atlantic coast, Florida is just completely hammered, right? So we're talking about power, utilities, and there's automatically going to be a stress to the supply chain. Okay, so let's talk about things that you can barter with. Batteries, AA, AAA, or even what I call the watch batteries, the CR2032s, the one that you can never find, or I always go to the store and get the wrong one. But the 2032s are kind of the universal type of what I call watch battery. Garage door openers use them. They are very, very inexpensive. You can get, my goodness, you can get 10 or 12 and they're only, maybe a quarter a piece. You can get them in a box of 30 or 40 or 50. Check Amazon. If you go to your local drugstore or grocery store, they're going to be much, much more expensive. All right. So those go in all sorts of different devices. Make sure that you have enough for you, obviously. Your AA, AAA, maybe some 9 volts, D-size batteries, maybe the bigger mag lights, and maybe some of your cheapy plastic flashlights might run your Cs. But if they're LEDs, they're going to probably run a smaller battery. Make sure that you have an amount to barter. Make sure you have a little bit extra. Things can get a little dicey when you're actually dipping into your core preps to barter. Now you may have to. You may be running short on something that's one of your core part of your prep. So it's all about negotiation. It's all about what you would consider a good price, I guess. All right. So we have our flashlights. We have our batteries, our extra batteries. Those little 2032s, they're very small, always in demand. You can go ahead and put them in either the original pack and keep them in there. It's kind of like a blister pack. You pop them out on the back, but put them into a Ziploc bag, something that will remain watertight. And if you have them in your go bag or you get home bag, but just make sure you have them handy and have them in a bag that's watertight. And do check the expiration. You leave them in your pantry or your go bag for a long period of time. Go ahead and check the expiration. I really don't know over a 2 or 3 year period how much of the state of charge they actually lose, but it is certainly possible. Hygiene products, soap, toothpaste, sanitary pads, disposable razors. Didn't even think about that. So when we go back to personal hygiene products, just things for basic cleanliness. Now, if you're like me, if you've ever been outside in the yard or you've been involved in a strenuous activity, some sort of athletics, and you get home and you're like, oh man, I just want a shower. and you drag yourself to the shower, do you know how good it feels once you get out of that shower? Man, I feel great. That was one of the best showers ever. And you kind of catch your second wind. Well, you kind of boosted your morale. So when you have an SHTF situation, the tiny little things like somebody shaving who normally stays clean shaven, somebody who not necessarily a germaphobe, but someone who's been slopping around in the woods and they're wet and they're dirty and they've been looking for things to forage, and you have an opportunity to barter and you have some dude wipes or whatever you want to call them, flushable wipes. Costco are relatively inexpensive. You can get them in a case. It's a very good price. But again, here I go. I digress. So just someone shaving who normally doesn't shave, just someone to wipe the crap off of their face, just get clean, does a tremendous amount for morale. Not only is it good hygiene to keep the dirt and the ooky stuff out of your face and out of your eyes, but it's very good for morale. So remember that. Just soap. I mean, bars of soap. I mean, how cool is that when somebody would, I'll give you 4 gallons of water for 3 bars of that Irish Spring or the antibacterial liquid soap. Something I really never even thought of. I know soap is important, toothpaste, got to brush your teeth, that sort of thing, but was never at the top of my preps. So talked briefly about first aid supplies, bandages, antiseptic wipes, any over-the-counter meds, antihistamines, Tylenol, Motrin. Again, keep what you need, but keep your little stash, your little bartering stash separate from what you have for your core preps. Small tools, a small screwdriver set, a small socket set, duct tape, multi-tool, a sewing kit. What happens if your neighbor or somebody rips one of their only pair of pants they have because of the storm? Their only t-shirt is now ripped and they needed it mended. Super duper important. A lot of folks don't have the basic tools. They don't have the little cheapy screwdriver set with the Phillips and the straight head, other different type of tools, a little socket set, nothing crazy. A lot of folks don't have those. I probably have more than I can count in my junk drawer. Now, most people I know have a junk drawer in the kitchen that has exactly that. It's just a bunch of junk. So consider that. Small tools, often overlooked. I'm not sure if you would let somebody borrow the screwdriver for a gallon of water. If you know the person and they're going to give it back, that's one thing. But again, we're talking about bartering. Briefly, we'll talk about precious metals. And like I've said before, if you've got the budget, small denomination of silver coins. We spoke about the 1 ounce rounds are fantastic. They're recognized, they hold value, and they trade easier than gold. Okay, gold is very expensive. Was it like $3,100 an ounce? I think I don't have the money to purchase gold, so I really don't follow gold that well. To be honest, soap, toothpaste, and those handy wipes probably are going to be a little more popular than silver. You'd be amazed on what people will trade or what people will barter for when you have the batteries and the soap and the toothpaste. People think personal hygiene first. So they're probably thinking about, what do I have that I can give to you for the soap? And then vice versa. You can always find yourself in a position where you haven't prepped well enough. You don't have enough of the personal items, and you're going to be in a position where you're going to be requesting from other people. Freeze-dried meals, food with a long shelf life grains are perfect. If you bag your own meals, your own little trail meals, those are fantastic. There's meals in a jar, soup mixes in a jar. The list is endless. And you would be amazed, again, for folks who are not prepared, and that's 90% of the population. Just like having a good shower, having a nice, warm, hearty meal that kind of sticks to your ribs, as my grandfather would say, that increases morale tremendously. So when you're out in the wilderness, getting clean, a nice hot meal, and starting a fire and sitting by the fire are probably the 3 things that would increase morale the quickest. Be careful about hoarding supplies. You don't want to have too much of anything because you may not have the room for it. 200 pounds of rice in the 5-gallon buckets might be taking up too much room. So again, just be careful and be mindful, obviously, if you have the discretionary income, but also the storage, the space that you're going to be placing those items. Let's talk about repair skills. Can you fix a leaky pipe, patch a tire, back to the sewing kit, mend clothing? Just think about a situation. Somebody in your community has come to you and say, hey, I've got a leaky pipe, or the toilet's leaking, or something's not right, a handyman. Is there anything you can do to help me? Again, a bartering situation just presented itself. Do you know how to sharpen a knife? Do you know how to sharpen a chainsaw chain? So very interesting. If the neighbor across the street has trees down and they break out their chainsaw and they haven't had it out for several months, several years, they never got the chain sharpened. And you know how to do that? It's not that difficult. It can be a little time consuming. But again, hey, Keith, I heard you running the chainsaw yesterday. I haven't had this thing out in 2 or 3 years, and it's all rusty and it's dull. Do you have time to sharpen this for me? I mean, I've got those fresh peppers or the corn we just picked, or 2 gallons of my favorite lemonade. If I give you a gallon of lemonade, would you mind sharpening the chainsaw chain? There's a perfect example of just having just basic skills is going to be absolute gold in a situation like that. So if you want to know how to sharpen a chainsaw chain, look it up on YouTube. Well, you look up anything on YouTube, and you can get some very good tutorials on how to do that. Sharpening a knife, a lot of folks don't have a whetstone. They don't have the stone to sharpen a knife. As you know, it's only the dull knives that cut you. My grandfather told me that a million years ago, and it took me a second to get it, but I eventually was able to pick that up. So let's talk about bartering safely and smartly. This really makes me nervous, especially with a stranger when you're trying to do some bartering. Okay, so how to barter safely and smartly. So trading during an SHTF situation is like haggling at a flea market. Emotions can run high. You need to protect yourself. So here's a few tips that might help. First, if at all possible, know the person you're trading with. If possible, take somebody that you trust along with you, a neighbor, friend, whomever it might be. If you're trading with a stranger, meet in public, a neutral spot, bring a buddy maybe, but again, be very, very careful when it comes to bartering with a complete stranger. So set clear terms up front. Before you hand over your batteries or before you sharpen that gentleman's chainsaw chain, agree on what you're getting in return. So you'll say, I'll trade you 10 AA batteries for a gallon of water. Not, well, whatever you think's fair. Because when they say, well, I'll give you a stale biscuit for those 10 AA batteries, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not fair. So just get right down to the nitty gritty, right down to brass tacks, and get it clarified on exactly what you're going to provide and what this other person is going to provide. Let's talk about oversharing. This ties into OPSEC or operational security. Don't let people know how much you have in your stockpile. If you're trading a few bars of soap, don't mention that you've got 200 bars back in the shed. Keep it low key. Avoid from being a target. So if somebody comes to you and they want to barter and they have a gallon of the lemonade and they're like, do you have any rice? You're like, well, sure. I'll give you 5 3-pound bags of rice for the gallon of lemonade. And that's a deal because I have so much rice. I got rice coming out my ears. I've got so much rice. I could probably live on rice and beans for the next 18 months. Don't do that. Don't overshare. Again, when people get desperate, these can be your friends, your neighbors. People get desperate in certain situations, so you need to be really careful. Trust your gut. I've preached this for years. If a trade feels off or anything else feels off, if someone you believe is pushing you too hard, just walk away. There'll be other opportunities. The goal is to come out of every trade feeling good about the deal and staying safe. My dad always taught me, when you buy a car, used car or new car, when you leave, if you believe you have the best deal or you received the best deal, you negotiated the best deal, then that's all you need. It's not, well, did I pay a good price? That's relative. Somebody could say, well, $12,000 for that used car. Oh, you got ripped off. The next person could say, $12,000. Oh, that seems fair. It's all about when you walk away. So when you walk away, you drive away in your new car or your used car. If you feel as though you were treated fairly and you negotiated the best price you could, that's all that matters. It could be completely different for somebody else, but that's all that matters. So the same with bartering. At the end, if you feel as though it was fair, if you feel as though that you received something in return, that's roughly valued, quote unquote, valued as the other item, then that's considered a win. As you know, I'm part of the affiliate program for Augustin Farms. A lot of really good freeze-dried meals, pre-prepared meals. They have a great website, and every once in a while, they'll have some fantastic sales, buy one, get one, that sort of thing. Now, I will put the affiliate link in the show notes. Now, with the affiliate link, if you click on that link, it takes you to their website. But if you purchase items from the affiliate link, I may, if I'm lucky, if it's the right day of the week, I may get a small commission on that purchase. In addition, with that affiliate link, when you check out, enter podcast prep, all one word, podcast prep, for additional 10% off your order. So there's my shameless commercial plug. All right, let's close with a little more information about Prepper Camp. They're the last part, 26th, 27th, 28th of September down in Saluda, North Carolina. A couple folks have asked me if the schedule for this year's Prepper Camp has been posted, and it has not. And I checked with some folks, and apparently it's kind of one of those, they publish it at the last minute or very close to the actual days of the events, because there's probably a lot of moving parts. And the schedules, there's 8 hours of classes, and there's eight areas, so 8 locations, different tents in different areas around the campground that these classes take place. So there's a lot going on, 3 days full of classes. So I went to the website, and I'm just going to give you a couple different classes that were last year, 2024. And I assume most of these people will be back, but I'm sure there's probably a few differences. Butchering class. Man, if they have that, I may have to go to it. Freeze drying. I have a freeze dryer. It's a fantastic tool. How to use herbs, beekeeping, mushrooms, ham radio, using drones post-disaster. That'd be fantastic if you have a large property to check things out. Herbal animal care, surviving martial law. That's kind of important. Prepping for a EMP, secret guarding. Oh, Lord. Secret guarding. I'm not sure what secret guarding is, but it sounds like something that should happen after a wedding. Ghost phones, trauma from terrorism, edible items in the wild, situational awareness. Boy, that's a great class. Night vision, emergency shelters, AI, avoiding abduction. I highly recommend avoid being abducted at all times. Survival groups, secret livestock, bug out bags, survival, evasion, all sorts of cane self-defense. If that one's there, I'm going to have to check that one out. Travel security, all sorts of things. Bartering, they're all over the place. So, and there's a bunch of different speakers. There's different events. They have movie night. Recently, the prices went up. It's kind of one of those things, the further out you purchase your tickets, the less expensive they are. And I think it kind of helps the folks that are putting it together get a head count or an accurate head count early on. So again, I'm going to check it out. It's going to be my first time down there. Looking forward to touching base with a few people that I've met online and through different prepping channels and prepping forums. So again, folks, if you have a chance, go down there. I'll be there. If you want to reach out to me, email practicalpreppodcast@gmail.com. I'm on the X. You can search Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast, or the official handle, I think, is prep_podcast. Prep_podcast. Obviously, the easiest way is just to go on and just do a quick search for Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast. All right, folks, thank you so much for stopping by and listening. And as always, be careful out there, take care of one another, and until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review.